Welcome back to the Renegade Report. It's a very special episode as we're talking about one of the most interesting quarterbacking stories to come through Bakersfield College in quite a while. He was a Wisconsin State Gatorade Player of the Year. How do they actually say the award?
Gatorade Player of the Year of the state of Wisconsin, I guess.
All right, there we go. Okay. And like the Yagi stock is riding high. You've seen the private quarterback coach. You've eliminated some slop in your throwing motion. You've talked to some colleges, but it's starting to appear that the D1 opportunity is not going to be there. And quarterbacking opportunities at the Division I level are incredibly competitive.
Yep.
And a lot of times it boils down to size. For you, unfortunately, it was a speed thing, it sounds like.
Yep.
But they're measuring the width of your hand.
Yeah.
Right?
They do that. They do everything.
Yeah.
I mean, they look at everything that they can possibly look at a quarterback to see, is he going to be successful for us? Because they invest a lot in a quarterback at every level. I mean, you look, there's 120-something Division I schools. So that means they're taking 120-something guys from around the United States. Well, you're going to be the best of the 120 guys that they're taking because that's what you have to be. You have to be one of the 120. So
You do. And then let's look at the 120 for a minute. You look at a guy like A.J. McCarron. A lot of people know who A.J. is. I wonder how many people knew who Jimmy Garoppolo was before he got drafted by the Patriots.
Yeah, probably not many.
Probably not many, but he was Division I quarterback for Eastern Illinois, I believe.
Yeah.
The same school that produced Tony Romo. But, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger was one that a lot of people on the West Coast were like, who's that guy? And it's like, oh, he measures out perfectly for an NFL quarterback. He has all the tools. He has a quick release. He's huge. So yeah, there's a lot of measurables that go into that. You had heard of Coach Dean. Obviously you'd heard about Renegade tradition. I think we're one of the most storied junior college football programs in the country.
Yeah, I mean, you talk to anybody anywhere, and you talk junior college football, Bakersfield comes up.
Right.
And so going into that, I actually visited the San Francisco City College and Bakersfield College the year after high school, and both of them were just competing in the state championship game, and Bakersfield won.
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
forever, my friend. And they won it in a very gorgeous edifice.
Yeah,
Stone Queen on the Hill Memorial Stadium.
Yeah. So So I visited both schools, and when I came down to Bakersfield, I met Coach Dean. And the second I met him, I kind of felt that he was just, a guy that I could look up to when I'm here. A type of kind of father figure that you look to. That unique guidance. You can come and talk to him about anything. And so
a wise man.
Yes, very. And so a lot of stuff that I've learned and come to know today is, come from him.
How did Coach Dean feel about the power mullet you were sporting until about 2 weeks ago?
He didn't necessarily say anything about it. I mean, me and Brandon both having it probably wasn't the best.
Brandon's was aggressive and violent. Yours was passive. Yours was friendly. Yours could sell me a bottle of wine in a nice restaurant. Brandon's would throw me out of a bar in Hollywood, I think.
Yeah, so, I mean, there wasn't too much going on about it, but...
Did he cut his off, too?
Yes.
Oh, so sad.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some photographs preserving it. I think his team photo is one of them.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, dude, he looks like the lost Allman Brothers on our website. So you come to Bakersfield College, Tark. You had a great freshman campaign. You're so fun to watch. All the promise seemed to be there. I mean, you got nicked up a couple times.
Yeah.
We missed you in the Hancock game, to be sure. But we rattled off the season with a bunch of wins and a bowl berth.
Yeah, and that was just a fun season. There's a lot of guys that were above me that I still have connections with. That they're fun to play with. Both years that I've been here at Bakersfield College playing, I've had great connections with the players. Just great guys to be around, and they made it kind of a home away from home in that locker room. And so I'm very grateful to the guys I've met, and very thankful that I've met those guys because they made my experience here at Bakersfield very, very fun.
Because had you spent much time outside of the Scani before you came to California?
Yeah, no, not at all. So this is kind of...
Wisconsin's its own world.
Yeah, definitely.
So you can take a child into a bar in Wisconsin, and as long as it's okay with mom or dad, they can have a nip.
Yeah. It's kind of... It's crazy. It's it's different, very different.
Yeah. Chris Farley's from Wisconsin. It's a wild place. It sounds like a fun place.
Yeah, it's a different atmosphere for sure. And that was
cold?
It's cold, very cold. It gets cold, but different atmosphere, in the sense of the people, a lot of people in Wisconsin are kind of they're over friendly. It's kind of like sometimes like if you were out here and you went to Wisconsin, kind of like get away from me, because they could be creeping you out. But they're so friendly and they're so kind, and everywhere you go, you can make a friend. It's kind of weird.
I've actually spent some time in the Midwest, and in Minnesota they call it Minnesota nice. But I remember, being from where I'm from, we were driving through southern Illinois and from Missouri, actually. My wife went to college out there. And we stopped at this gas station, and this dude was like, "Where are you heading?" And I was like, "Decatur." "Oh, yeah? Who are you going to see?" My wife's friend from college. "What's her name?" And he wanted to know
everything.
Yeah. Where are you going to lunch? There's a great sandwich. Now listen here. No, don't take the left, take the right. It's a great sandwich shop. They make that beef fresh every day. And he had a whole list of, names, people I could call on if something happened to the car. Yeah, and you're right. It is a little bit.
Yeah.
What are you after? You trying to rob me right now? No, they're just real nice.
Yeah, it's totally different, and it's fun to be around sometimes.
Oh,
when you see both California and Wisconsin, when you go back to Wisconsin, you're kind of like holy crap, these guys are just overly nice. Yes. And so it's different, very different.
So that when you came to Bakersfield, was it a bit of a culture shock? The heat?
Yes. At the heat, one thing, we get humidity, which is totally different. Here it's just dry. Like you walk outside and you're in the sun. It's like it's super hot.
You feel the sun's lasers.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
And in Wisconsin, it's just the humidity. It's just kind of like for a week in July, it'll get really hot. That's about it. Otherwise it's in the 80s. So it was different. That was definitely different.
Now the big thing that we've been saving here is the culture shock you had to adjust to your sophomore season.
Yeah.
Big hopes. Eligibility is a precious thing. You have 5 years to compete for competitive seasons in football.
Yep.
You decided to come back to Bakersfield knowing full well that there were some guys who weren't going to be able to compete, namely half your offensive line. Okay. Vickers was injured. Marquise moved on. Kalen Smith went to Idaho. So, a lot of weapons you had last year are not there anymore. Now you got Curtis McGregor, and I dare anybody to show me a better running back in California than Curtis. But now you're starting to be like the gunslinger Brett Favre. Now you're the doors of the OK Saloon are swinging open, and here comes Tarek. Were you nervous about how things were going to turn out this season?
Yeah, going into the season, you don't know how it's going to play out, and you try not to worry about the recruiting, but it's hard not to, because that's the next step in your life, is where you're going to go to college for another 2 years, 3 years. So you try not to worry about it, but in the same, you can't you can't just put it in the back put it in the back of your head and I'll worry about it at the end of the season. You can't do that. So you got to find a way to balance both this season and the upcoming seasons. So that's a hard part, and some guys, worry too much about it. Some guys don't worry enough about it. But going into the season, I thought we'd be very good. With the athletes we had. We had Curtis coming back. I was coming back at quarterback. We had Dorton coming back at the offensive line. So we had one returner guy that
big corn-fed.
Yeah, a guy that you would hope that would take leadership there at the offensive line. We had Dominic Frash at corner, very good athlete. And we had some weapons coming back.
We had some good linebackers.
Yeah, we had Nichols. Yeah. We had guys that could lead. In offense, and then we didn't have any wide receivers that were really returners that played a lot. So that was kind of an area that we were lacking. In the backfield running the ball, we really didn't have any trouble. We had Isaiah Sharp in there too, two guys. Curtis and Isaiah, two big guys going at it. Hard to tackle. But when you don't have weapons on the outside and you don't have an interior that are ready to go, it's tough to win games in the beginning of the season.
Right. And we saw David Ross emerge. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't there for you the first 3 weeks of the season. I think he had some injury problems.
Yeah, David kind of hurt himself, and he knows that. He was mature about it, and he realized he had hurt himself with the injuries he had. Some were self-inflicted. So it's kind of, what are you going to do? One of the guys you're counting on is injured all the time. Same thing with Jazz. He was injured. Great wide receiver. He's just injured. So it's tough. And so you relied on two freshman guys that coming in and playing, lacked a little bit of, leadership there, just there kind of following.
Faison and yeah.
And Jason, still very good wide receivers. It just, they didn't have the leadership roll down, and they had confidence. We knew they had confidence, but the leadership role they didn't have, and that's something that you need at every position.
So tell me then about the conversation after the third game.
Something that necessarily I didn't expect. If you put yourself in my shoes, it's definitely tough that, you're trying to do everything you can. You're working your butt off. You're working your tail off, but nothing seems to go right. It's really, really hard.
Were there dark moments for the first 3 weeks?
Yeah. The first 3 weeks, no, because I love competing. Every week was a new challenge, and I'm ready to go. I want to compete. I want to get back out there. I lose, I'm ready to get back up. I'm ready to go after it again. I want to win.
So, like in the Long Beach games, do you feel like they were just kind of saving your skin by pulling you out early?
No. I think they wanted to see what Noah and Brandon could do, and when Noah went in there and it wasn't very successful, Brandon didn't really get a shot. When Noah went in there and showed, it wasn't very successful, it doesn't matter what you do. It just, if you don't have an offensive line, you can't move the ball. It's the end of the story. Right. And it's tough, and I don't want to put the blame anywhere else. I will take the blame. I could have done stuff in the end. I go back and I watch film in those first 3 games.
You could be faster.
Yeah. There's things I could have done. I could have got the ball out faster. I could have just thrown it away a lot more. But, those things are tough to do, and that's a big learning curve that I've worked on a lot. That if you watch, when I finally played again in the Pasadena game, I ended up throwing 2 balls away that I wouldn't have done, in the first 3 games. They're just balls that, hey, nothing's open, throw it away, get rid of it. It's just something that I had to go through and learn.
So how did that go, though, after the third game? Like, when did you find out they were going in another direction?
We went into film.
We're talking about something pretty difficult, which is that you were demoted from the starting quarterback position that you'd held uninterrupted.
Yeah.
Since last year.
Yeah, so they had talked to Dalton, I'm assuming, Sunday, and make sure that he was in with the plan to come on board and be the quarterback. And then Monday we had a meeting with all the quarterbacks, and Coach explained the situation. And then, it was going to be Dalton, Noah, then myself, and then Brandon. So that's where we were going. Walking out of there, a lot of frustration that you've put in all this time and all this work, and, you're done. Like, it's over. The season's kind of over is what you're thinking. I'm not going to play again. Like, I'm done for.
Because they put you third on the depth
chart.
chart.
And it's hard to look at the positives.
Do you argue that at all?
I can't argue it because I know that I could have done something more. I felt I could have still controlled something. I could have done something a little better. So for me, I get it. Coaches, I get it. They're trying to win a game. They're put in a position where winning games is very important. So I understand that. They got to win games. I completely get it. But from my point, I don't agree with it necessarily, obviously. I'm a competitor. I want to play. I think I'm the best. I want to play, and I want to keep competing. But at the same time, you got to sit back and see it outside of the program. You're looking in, hey, now something's not working. Maybe we put in a quarterback that's a little bit more of a runner that we can run with and do some other stuff. But I think the more frustrating part is in the next 3 games when you don't win a game, You struggle again. And then you're kind of looking like, well, hey, it wasn't the right change. And, you kind of feel like your season and your recruiting is just kind of shot, and you're done. Like, this is it. This is, the end of your football career is kind of how it felt.
Was that the lowest?
Yeah, I would say after those next 3 games, that was the lowest that I've been in my football career, because it's just, you show up for practice, you don't get very many reps. You're doing some scout team stuff, and it's just really frustrating as a guy that's, always kind of been the first string and the leader, that you kind of have to take a seat in the back. So
well, and you took punches in the first 3 games.
Yeah,
you got lit up, man.
Yeah,
you got sacked a lot, and then it was kind of like, argument could be made that maybe that was the time to go with the fleet-footed quarterback and then let you pick league apart.
Yeah, and I think that what helped the most was the guys on the team. Like I said, I met a lot of really great guys, and they supported me all through the run. They said, hey, keep your head up. Like, you're still going to get your chance. You're still going to get your chance. Even though I didn't believe it, they believed it, which helped me. I had friends back home that would call me and say, hey, keep your head up. Like, you're still a great quarterback. You're going to be successful. Curtis, Curtis still had my back. And it's guys like that really, in the end, all kept me there.
Yeah,
kept me from walking off.
Well, and then the team tips its own hand by putting you in, I think, did I see you warming up in the game where Terrence Young was injured?
Yeah, I was going to do the 2-minute drill. We didn't get the ball, so
that's got to speak volumes.
Yeah, and that's also frustrating. It's like, okay, you're going to put the ball in my hands when the game matters, but you won't put it in my hands throughout the whole first 3 quarters. But at the same time, I got to sit back and I got to realize, hey, we can't protect. We need to have a quarterback that can run more. So this is what we're going with. So it was frustrating, but it's good. Good for me. Good, to get a different perspective of where you're playing.
Right, because one thing that we have to remember is that we're pretty fortunate.
Yeah.
You and I aren't going to starve to death anytime soon.
Yes.
That's
that's a whole other aspect of the game that Coach Dean, when I'm frustrated with him, with the situation, but somehow he can shine through a light to me that, hey, Tark, you're given an opportunity that not many guys are able to do. Go out and play college football or practice college football, every day. And, and I think that was kind of after the second game that didn't start, and that's when I think I started to pick it up a little bit more in practice. But, hey, Tark, not many guys are here playing junior college football. Not many guys are playing Division I, Division II, Division III college football. God has given you some gifts that many guys don't get, so you have to appreciate that. And I think that's where I grew the most, is to learn to appreciate the true little things and not look at the picture of, hey, I'm not playing,
Well, and it's part of the reason why we're sitting here with you. I mean, the position of quarterback is so critical to the culture of football. It's become a metaphor in business circles. Who's quarterback in this situation, right? That means who's leading.
Yeah.
Who's calling the shots? Who's directing things? And there is more emotional cash attached to it because of that. But I think you'll hold on to those experiences as you go forward. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks who have suffered on the field and then fallen apart off the field. Like, Ryan Leaf is a good example of that. Jamarcus Russell's a good example of that. Jamarcus weighed almost 400 pounds at one point.
Yeah.
Couldn't handle the pain of things not working out in the NFL. You've kept your head up. Tell us what the next step for you is.
Right now, I have decided to walk on to the University of Buffalo. I'm very fortunate to get this opportunity. Going there, given an opportunity to compete for a starting job, and it's a good deal. And when I visited there, it's a culture that I believe is heading in the right direction. They want to win games, they want to push players, and it's they've got a great biology program. Works for me for school. I'm going to be pre-med, so. And everything's kind of working out in a different way than I probably wouldn't have expected.
And you'll probably also, I don't know, it's too soon. Hold on, I'm not going to say it. I've had a number of concussions, so I shouldn't make jokes, but you'll probably hit your head a lot less as a podiatrist than you will as a quarterback. But, dude, you can long snap a little bit, I heard.
Yeah, I did that for a little bit. It's just something that I did in high school.
Are you going to flash that at Buffalo? Be like, wait, hold on. I got one more trick.
Probably avoid that. But
okay.
Yeah.
Khalil Mack was the first-round draft pick for the Raiders out of Buffalo.
Yeah.
You'll be back in the snow.
Yeah.
Did you wear a glove on the throwing hand in the snow?
No, just a hand warmer. It's good enough.
So the Renegades have some options next season at quarterback. Do you like where things are heading? What do you see in the future for Renegade football?
I think that they get the right guys in there that want to work, that want to put in the time. They will head in the right direction. It's tough when you're at a junior college because you don't have full control of the guys. You can't really
revoke scholarships.
Yeah, you can't punish them for not showing up for a workout necessarily. You can make them run, but it's not like running's not like taking away a scholarship. You're not losing any money. So it's tough when you're there trying to discipline junior college athletes. So if they get the right guys in there that will want to work and want to lead, I think a great start is with Dalton Gallis. I think he's a great guy that he's didn't have a leadership role this year, but he can grow into one next year. I think he can be a very good quarterback. You get Isaiah Sharp back, get Vickers back, get another wide receiver out there with Derek. I think they have a good team.
Oh, I'm starting to feel much happier all of a sudden. I was so sad to see you go, and our time is running short together. But Tarek, thank you for talking to us about what it was like. I'm glad you got something positive out of your experience in Bakersfield. You've been a tremendous role model, a great guy to have on campus, and while I'm not glad that you didn't get to start every game this season, I'm sure glad I got to watch how you handled it.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate that.
Be well, sir.
Thank you.
He's got big mitts, too. That's why he's a quarterback. Thanks for tuning into this special talk. I hope it gave you some insight into the high emotion and the difficult decision-making that goes into making your Renegade football team one of the best on earth. For the entire BC Athletics team, including Athletic Director Sandy Taylor, Associate Athletic Director Keith Ford, I'm your host, Francis Mayer, and we'll see you next week. Happy holidays.